Díomh a cardja agus fáilte rash. Hello friends and welcome back to the Cream Cree podcast. Elaine Nugul is Anam Dum. My name is Elaine Doyle and it's with deep, heartfelt gratitude that I welcome you back to this sacred space. What's the crack? How he's getting on? Yeah, Tassulagum go will to our house, are in law alling. I hope you are keeping great on this beautiful day. No matter when you're listening to this, just remembering that every day is a beautiful day and what a gift it is to be alive on this beautiful planet during these magical, intense times. Oh, yeah, it is really good to be back here with you all. It's been a while. It's been a while, and I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, before we dig into today's session, I am just inviting you to tap into the place of stillness within you. So whether you're moving around or driving or tending to daily life tasks, we can still tap into the beingness that is ever present within us. The conscious awareness that you are. The part of you that is aware of your busy mind. The eternal part of you that never dies. That never questions itself. The isness. The formless, the nameless. Breathing into this place. And perhaps just bringing your awareness into your heart space at the same time. Where I feel the beingness really resides. And my invitation for you is to stay in this place of conscious awareness, of beingness, for the duration of our journey together today. Because beyond the conceptualization and the words that I share, the most important thing, I believe, is feeling and being. I could be here for, the next 50 years talking us through consciousness. But I really believe it's something that has to be felt. and experienced this connection to our higher self, to the divine, to the creator, the universal energy, God, whatever you want to call it. It can't be talked. We can't talk our way to it. I mean, you know me, I'll try my best, but honestly, it really is a felt experience. Which is beyond words. And this connection is something our soul knows very well. And the more we tap into this beingness, our soul, our isness, the more we reside in peace and love and harmony. Goheen tuck ar fod. So welcome again, friends. Fáilte a rash. I could honestly stay in that place for the next hour, but I am here to share. Uckle o the Omokri, word from my heart, words from my heart. Excuse me. And the reason I probably haven't recorded an episode for, since Christmas is because I've needed that stillness. But tá honest get to míniarm, I'm really excited to be here sharing, because sharing, speaking, helps us to integrate. So today's episode, friends, we're going to be talking about the importance of integration on the spiritual path. As I look out at the blue skies and the nearly full moon here in County Kerry, I send you love from this land. And yeah, before I get into the topic, just tuning into the seasons here once again. So here in Ireland, in the Northern Hemisphere, we are at the beginning of spring. Imbolc, meaning in the belly. So it's representing that new life, conception, rebirth. The snowdrops and the daffodils are blossoming. Depending where you are in Ireland, they're blossoming. And I can see the little nantog, the nettles and the cleaver, the wild garlic starting to come up. New life coming out of the depths of the dark winter. And what I wanted to talk about briefly about spring is that, firstly, here in Ireland, especially Kerry, it's been very cold. It's actually been frosty. Now, when it's frosty on the coast, you know, it's even colder other places. So there's signs of spring. It is spring. However, winter for me is still very present with the temperatures. So it's still, for me, a time of stillness. Spring, for me, is one of the most tender seasons. And it is a time to really be very mindful of our action, because we actually have the ability to undo all the goodness of the winter's rest and revelations and healing and downloads if we run into spring and run back into outsourcing or busyness or making plans or seeking outside of ourselves or going here, there and everywhere. Yes, we actually have the ability to undo the magic of winter. So yeah, just really wanted to state that I'm again giving you all permission to just slow. Yeah, and I met friends today out the sauna, and I was like, just so you know, I'm still actually, mightn't see you for a while, I'm still in hedgehog mode. And just on that, you know, the hedgehogs, I've been channeling the hedgehog this winter. The hedgehogs stay in hibernation till the end of March. Well, no, end of February, March. They come out in March, depending on the weather. And I remember in 2018, it was snowing in March. So we get a elongated downtime here in Ireland, which is such a blessing, I believe. I really believe that, especially during this prophesized time where a lot of healing is needed. So for me, especially February, is a time of integrating the winter. If we do not take this space to integrate, as I said, we lose the magic. I'm just going to backtrack again. So spring, before I get into the integration, it is like, I can definitely feel, I'm sure all of you can feel the palpable shift in energy. I literally felt it the 30th, 31st, 1st of February. So the 31st of January, I could just feel the shift. And internally. And what I noticed was, but there still wasn't the physical energy to act on that. So it's a time of making plans, visioning for me, rather than like taking action, taking big action. It's not the time, it's too premature. Think of how delicate the baby lambs are when they're born. Think of that delicate, we're like little newborns. So it's not the height of summer at all yet. So for me, there is plans to do a lot of different pilgrimages basically across the Celtic Isles to the UK and Scotland and Wales, and I need to prepare a lot of things to do that, but it's not the time yet. You know, I'm scheduling a lot of that in for Easter and mid-March, all the different moving and shifts that need to happen. And a friend asked me, he was like, oh, how's the preparation going? Oh, I haven't even started yet. You know, there's no rush. There is no rush. So I'm just going to sip my cacao here. So there is my message on Imbolc. Take it very slow. And enjoy the shift. You know, there's a grand stretch in the evening, like there really is here in Kerry, and there's a different energy in the sun. It's just brighter and it's beautiful. However, you know, the temperatures are pulling me back. Integrate slowness. Which brings me on to the topic of today's episode, which is integration. And just to say as well, like one of the reasons I probably haven't recorded a session or an episode was like, I just don't know I don't know really what to talk about because there's so much things I'm personally integrating from winter. And then the minute I decided I was doing the episode, I was just making the cacao and then the idea came to me. So it's just that reminder, lads, that like, just sit down to write the poem or to draw or to paint or to, it'll come. We're so creative. It's unbelievable. It's just the amount of creativity we can be a vessel for is actually overwhelming. Hence why I'm really, really, really slightly allergic to this whole AI thing, because I do believe, I remember watching a video and they were talking about predictions for the next decade for the new earth and how AI is helping people to exit the matrix and to become, self-employed and self-sufficient, which I'm totally for. If AI does that, that's amazing. However, there's just so much creativity within us, and do we need things perfect? Someone's saying they use ChatGPT or whatever to make their email newsletter sound better, and it's like, do we need things perfect though, lads? I just lob it out, lob it up, like, yeah, I don't know. I'm in two minds about it, and I'm so naive when I see things and someone's like, that's AI, and I'm like, no, I did not know that. Like reels and stuff, or someone writing 40 books in 2 years and thinking, oh my God, that's amazing. Never thought, maybe the AI did or whatever. Which is people's decisions, but I just really hope it doesn't. We all have the ability to write poems and have podcasts and paint and whatever it is, and we won't all create the same thing. But anyways, I'm going on a rant there now altogether. But yeah, I suppose I was just reminded that there's always something to be shared. Everybody has such medicine to share and creativity, including you. And maybe you're creating a lot already, but maybe there's one more thing, There's one more thing. Yeah, so Shane on that little rant. And you know what? I might start another little rant actually here as well. I'm reminding myself now why I didn't like putting a topic at the start of the podcast, so I could just kind of rant, share whatever comes from my heart. So just bear with me as I reflect on what's been happening since I last shared, I suppose. And I was reminded by the medicine of the snow. So I think it was like the second week in January. We had some snow here in Ireland. Actually, a lot of snow. Well, where I was anyways. And I was just about to head back to Kerry after 2 weeks back with my family for Christmas and solstice, which was very, very, very magical. I did an episode about that, but I was just had the car packed up, ready to go back to Kerry the next day, and I got snowed in. And I know a lot of friends that I was talking to felt the magic of the snow energy as well. It's this like crystalline, it's literally like stardust. It sparkles in the dark, the snow. And I realised, lads, that like I was still taking a lot of unnecessary action. Maybe going to the shop twice a day and then the post office and just like, yeah, unnecessarily. Because when you're snowed in, it's like, well, I actually can't drive, so I'll have to do whatever's in the fridge. And I'm a Taurus, so I like me bits, I like me wax candles, like me organic eggs, I like having me bits. But it was like, what's even more important than that, Elaine, in the winter is nesting. And I actually talked to my housemate about this, like realising how much energy it actually takes to leave the house. For anyone who works from home and has really delved into the feminine energy of rest, you'll subtly be tapping into now how much actual energy it is to properly get dressed and get yourself out the door. Which I know is a luxury, but just seeing how, yeah, the snow, it was just deep medicine. Seeing how, like, not driving anywhere, I think around the Christmas and solstice, I didn't drive anywhere for 2 weeks, and just subtly seeing how a lot of these actions going here, there, and everywhere robs us of vital creativity, creative energy. And I could have done with that for another month. So I really wouldn't say no to another bout of snow, to be honest. But how do we create that kind of boundary without having snow or a lockdown? That's the mastery, I think. And for me, yeah, the most grounded I've ever been in my life probably was in 2020, because I couldn't run here, there, and everywhere. I don't know if I've shared, but my stress response would be to flight. So flighty, running, hard to be still. Like, I've changed that now, but it's still a default. So I still always have to rein myself back in. And if we're constantly going, we're not giving our self space to integrate, which we'll get to soon. I suppose this is all leading to the integration, really. The spaciousness and the stillness to integrate. So, I luckily had the blessing of spending some time in community up in Faughart, near Faughart, where St. Bridget is from, for Bridget's Day, and Imbolc. And I was around my soul friends for a few days. And we just created a retreat, really, for ourselves, meditating and massaging and yoga and cacao and debriefing and integrating. And I realised that it's taken me years, lads, to get to this point. My friend was like you really embody rest and stillness. And I'm like, it's taking me years and years and years to unravel, to bring my nervous system into a place of regulation where it feels safe to rest. Because when you're dysregulated, it actually doesn't even feel safe to rest. And how it's easier in community, because when I'm in Kerry on my own, I'm more restless and it's harder to sit still. But when there's co-regulation, when there's people around you, it's easier to be still for me. And I know my friend said the same. So yeah, I think I could still slow down even more. I think I outsource in nature still a bit. Spend a lot of time outdoors when actually I just need to be in, probably working on my website or sending newsletters. Where was I going with that? Yeah, it's like this insight that these things don't happen overnight, lads. Coming into a place of stillness to integrate, or not just integrate, but to heal, because it's only when we're regulated in our nervous system, when when you feel really grounded. Like, I've been to the sauna today and I've been meditating, I feel really grounded, right? And I know I've probably talked about this before, but that's the only time, well, it's only through a regulated nervous system that you can actually feel at one with with God, with what is, with peace, connected to source, spirit, great spirit, whatever you want to call it. And I recently did an amazing workshop with Michael Angelo, not the artist from the Renaissance, but modern day spiritual teacher. And he put into words what I have been sensing for a long time now, which is the nervous system is actually the Holy Grail. And the nervous system is the gateway and the interface between us and God. And this is where integration comes in. So I'm just going to read out a little. I just Googled, good old Google, what is integration? Because this is actually all linked. Rest, stillness, integration is all one. So spiritual integration is a process of assimilating and integrating the insights and realizations of an awakening, the spiritual awakening, into daily life. It involves bringing the wisdom and understanding gained during an awakening into all aspects of life, including relationships, work, and personal growth. So I will expand on that, which is, so it's integrating the insights and realizations and wisdom and understanding gained in an awakening into all aspects of life. But it's not just gained from awakening, it's gained from things that help us awaken, like break up in relationships. Probably the biggest one for me is pilgrimages. Walking the land needs an awful lot of integration. So for example, you know, people come on pilgrimages to Ireland to remember the ancient wisdom of the land. But if you walk the land and you don't integrate the insights and the wisdom, it's lost. So if you have, like, you read A New Earth, or you read The Power of Now, or whatever spiritual book it is, or you break up with someone and it's like an awakening and the book is an awakening, but you don't actually take the time to process it and to assimilate it and integrate the insights, it becomes fragmented, right? And it actually can lead to a dysregulated nervous system, because there's all this information and learning in your body that isn't settled and rooted, if that makes sense. It's the same with trauma. If trauma isn't integrated, it becomes fragmented in the body. So it's separated in our energy field. It's not all to come together as one and integrated. And when we're fragmented and when things aren't integrated, we don't have a regulated nervous system. And if we don't have a regulated nervous system, it's very hard to connect to peace and to God, to love, whatever you want to call it, right? God being the creator of all of life, the masculine and the feminine. I feel like as an Irish woman, I always have to be clear about what God is, because there's been such a distorted projection of God. And I mentioned this on Instagram before, but the Irish language is older than the Catholic Church. And how we say hello, which is Dia Gwit, is may God be with you. So I believe our ancient Irish ancestors have been using the word God for millennia. So I'm reclaiming it. So here I am, voicing my strong opinion that integration is the key. It may be the key that we've been bypassing. Yeah. Integration. I must look up the Irish word. So now that I've got into the crux of the topic, I could be here for a while. So yeah, coming back to Michael Angelo and his teachings, I'd really recommend checking out his work. I think his Instagram is Michael Angelo. I mean, that's an easy one to remember, right? But yeah, so he was saying the nerve, or when he said that, I was like, this is why I've been dedicating and devoting my life right now to healing and regulating my nervous system, because I knew I could not access God otherwise. Hence why there's a whole episode dedicated to spiritual practices and how there's an awful lot of my time spent just bringing my nervous system down, which is, yeah, the best thing I could be doing. And I'm blessed. I can see now why I don't have kids and all of that jazz, or the piece of land or anything, because yeah, those things require an awful lot of energy and work. And some people have gone into those things already having a regulated nervous system. I have to regulate my nervous system before I have those things. And you can do them while you have those things as well, but everyone's path is different, right? So yes, Michael Angelo, he was talking about that. Such a soul brother, like he's really bringing through the Rose lineage. He must have been an apostle of Yeshua, because this man is very embodied. But yeah, what he basically said is God is in the body. God is in the body. So as I move around now, I know if I'm not present in my body, if I'm not bringing that conscious awareness to everything I do, I'm disconnected from God, from Source. So for me, I was around one of my friends, Claire, and we're, still getting to know one another. I met her last year, beautiful soul sister, and she's probably getting to know me in terms of like, wow, Elaine really rests a lot. And I was saying to her, it's not that I don't like doing, I love doing. It's that I have to make sure it's from the right place. It's coming from the right place, because if it's not coming from the right place, my nervous system becomes dysregulated because there isn't actually physical energy there. So it's becoming extremely discerning about what we say yes to. Is it coming from a place of, I should be doing is more important than being, I can't sit still. And if we do things for the wrong reason, it leads to more unconsciousness. So did you ever wonder why there was a gathering and you couldn't go to it? It's probably because the consciousness that birthed the gathering was actually unconscious. Or I look back now on meditations that I've recorded or things that I've birthed, and I know it's coming from a dysregulated nervous system place, and I can't even listen back to it now. I've actually had to go back and delete stuff because it's just not, it wasn't grounded or rooted. So for me, I seen my friend Sean was up at Lough Crew recently, and the message from the Cailleach was, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And that's the message. It's like when you've integrated and you're regulated, then you do stuff from a conscious place. And maybe that's only one thing that you birth or create a month, one poem or one offering. I believe it's a lot more, it's going to attract a lot more in. It's going to be a magnet for what you desire because it's coming from a conscious, regulated place. Okay. And for those of you who have, like myself, lived in flight or fight all your life, you'll know that it takes a lot of devotion and dedication to unravel from that. And I feel like I'm going through a few threads here, which is like regulation and integration, but they even sound alike. I'm not sure if I shared this. I probably didn't because it only happened at Christmas, but I was visiting a friend of mine who had her child in an alternative schooling environment, but that closed down, and she felt the best thing for her family would be to send her child to a Gael school until they found something more alternative. And obviously it was an adjustment for the young child who's very sensitive and had experienced something different. And it was a dark December morning, and she said, or maybe it was her little brother actually that said, "Why are you waking us up, ma'am, when it's dark and we're tired?" And then her daughter said, "Yeah, ma'am, why are you doing that, like?" And me and my friend spoke about this, that like, we've actually been dysregulated since we were 5 and had to go to school and go against our body. So we got up, even though it wasn't regulating, we weren't regulated, we were dysregulated after being woken up when we're tired and dark. And I realised that, like, yeah, we actually, if we were born in a traumatic way in a hospital, we also might have come out of the womb dysregulated. We might have been even dysregulated in the womb if our mother was anxious. So what I'm trying to say, lads, is that we might be healing from not just, we're healing, I believe, many of us, from a lifetime of dysregulation. And it takes an awful lot of spaciousness to integrate all of those experiences. Does that make sense? That, like, from such an early age, we've been pushing ourselves to go beyond our limits, which is dysregulating. And unless we slow down now, we're actually perpetuating that cycle. And that brings me to the integration where, like, and I probably spoke about this before, where I left the day job in 2019, Tempestry Children's Hospital, emergency department, mental health team, talk about dysregulating, even though it was absolute blessing to work with those children that I worked with, but the whole system is not very good for the nervous system. And I left the day job. I did start to slow down, but I felt guilty about it. So I ended up taking on lots of one-to-one clients and burnt myself out again for the 3rd time in about 5 years. And then I slowed down doing that, and I stopped most of my one-to-one clients. And then I was like flat out going on pilgrimages here, there and everywhere, all over Ireland, Scotland, wherever. And then, I'm sure I've shared this before, I burnt my feet. My bell tent went on fire at Lough Crew in, trying to think what year it was, September 2022. Best medicine ever. Probably one of the best things that's happened to me, because, like, in fairness, like, I really did listen to that. I was like, okay, the fire has burnt my feet. And, like, there was, like, probably about €5,000 worth of instruments. I'm just laughing because I remember my friend Aoife's face when she heard me screaming and all. I was in bits, but none of the instruments got burnt. It was just my feet and a few blankets. But so I really listened to that. And I suppose that was the pivotal time where I really started to slow down. And started to integrate everything. I mean, a lot of us did that in 2020, in fairness, as I said, that's when I slowed down a lot as well. But then I went back into that flighty mode when all the restrictions were lifted. And all these experiences of festivals and time in community and gatherings and pilgrimages, they're absolutely wasted, lads, if we don't take time to integrate them. So what integration looks like for me is, so I've just spent a week in Louth near Faughart with friends. We went to Hillatara, went to Bridget's Well, yeah, so there was a few different things that happened, and reflection for me looks like journaling, and reflecting on what magic did I pick up there? Talking to my therapist, recording a podcast. So reflection might be drawing a painting about your pilgrimages, right? But I feel like this has really been missed in the spiritual communities, the importance of this integration time. You know, people offer these pilgrimages and offerings, and I don't know if there's enough integration processes happening. So something I did with Journeying Back to Love is I offered like 6-month integration calls with the groups to see where they at now, you know. And it's, you know, I suppose it's built into us. We want more. The ego wants more than it wants. So it's like more, let's go to more kirtan, more pilgrimages, more cacao ceremonies, more plant medicines. And you haven't fucking integrated what you've already gone through. And you actually don't need more of it. What you do need is to integrate what you've already done. And it's simple. I do think talking is, whether that's you're paying somebody or it's your friends. So that reminds me of a really healing night I had on Thursday night. So I believe when you're meeting up with community, right? Meet up, plan, okay, we'll meet up for 3 days and we'll have fun and crack. And then the last day we'll spend integrating what's unfolded. I actually think that's really important. Vital. Because things will come up within community, whether it's positive or negative, and if we don't integrate it, it's wasted. I know I keep repeating myself on that. So like when I used to run retreats in Avondale, I'd always stay up there for a day or two at least to integrate. And remember, one of the women we held space with didn't have that capacity because, you know, she had responsibilities, and how harder it was for her then to integrate because she wasn't around to integrate with us. Integration is really good within community, especially if the medicine has happened within community. So debriefing is integration, you know, and not in a bitchy way, not gossiping, debriefing. So as I said to you, I was up in Loud for a week, and I was meant to go back. I thought I might go back to Kerry sooner than I did, but I always know that when the portal is completely closed, I'll have the energy to leave, which I did on the Friday. And that was when everything was actually processed and integrated. So there was just 2 of us left by this stage, and I said to my friend, like, are you up for some debriefing? I said. And holy goddess, lads, we both woke up the next morning like newborn chicks. Like, my friend actually looked different. She was like, you look amazing. I was like, I feel amazing. What we had done is we had shared everything that had come up for us between Lunasa and Imbolc, which is probably 6 months, isn't it? So everything, all the magic that would come up and the difficulties in relationships and in community. Jeez, I'm just still thinking of how magic the conversation was. Because, you know, if we're on the land and we're in gatherings and things come up and we don't actually share them with the community, it's not getting integrated. And again, it's fragmented and it's in our energy field, and it's harder to regulate ourselves because it's all these fragmented things. And I'm going to come back to, I'm going to just pin Scotland there because I need to come back to that. That's a really good example of it as well. But just coming back to the integration evening I had with my friend, and it was funny because her family member was in the kitchen while we were talking, and he came in and he was like, God, this is amazing, girls, I have to come in on this. And he did for a minute. He just found it very interest in how we were navigating the debrief and integration conversation. He was like, this is amazing. I was like, this is actually vital, you know. And when we are debriefing and integrating, let's say what's come up in our romantic relationships or our friendships, what I've realised, lads, is that it doesn't need to be like a bitching scenario. It can be done in a very, very, very conscious way, which is like that unconscious part of them triggered the unconscious part of me. And becoming aware of what keeps being triggered in me, what unconscious part of me keeps getting triggered within this community, and what is going on there, what is that about? And how can I show up either more authentically or different, or how can I center myself more so that wound doesn't keep arising? So I believe if we don't have this integration of, okay, what's happened here, debriefing, journaling, calling on your higher self, getting support, we keep perpetuating these same wounds in our relationships and in community. You know, or in plant medicine ceremonies, whatever it is. An example for that is if you have, you know, if you keep attracting the same sort of men, and if you don't take the time to like hash that out with a therapist or a friend, what's going on for me? Why? What wounded part of me keeps attracting these men? If you don't integrate what's happened in your past relationships, you'll keep having the same issue arise. You'll keep attracting the same men. And it's the same in communities, you know, the same things will arise. Yeah, so just going to pause there for a minute. So I mentioned Scotland there. And I don't know how much I've talked about my pilgrimages to Scotland. It's a whole episode in itself. But I went to Scotland on a pilgrimage in 2021 for a month. Oh my God. I think I'm still actually integrating it. And it's now 2025. It definitely took me a good 2 years. There was definitely a year where it was rippling so much, integration couldn't even happen because I was still in Scotland. My soul was still in Scotland. And I was talking to a few people about this in recent weeks because, one of my clients had been on a pilgrimage in Scotland and Ireland and felt like there wasn't any or enough integration for her pilgrimages. And I was like, this is actually something I'm so passionate about because I've experienced it myself where, walking the land, oh my goddess, like so many dimensions merge. I will definitely have to do a podcast on this in itself, but on pilgrimages and integration, what to do and what not to do on a pilgrimage. But I see people, organising pilgrimages in Ireland and they're like, okay, so it's a 7-day retreat and we're going to Tara, Newgrange, Loughcrew, Carrowkeel, Knockrow. So they're going to like a different site every single day, right? And I'm like, fucking hell, their nervous system's going to be shot. Because even if they're not conscious of it, it could take them a long time to integrate that. Because in my experience as a priestess, I can only speak from my own experience, is this is not gospel truth. This is the musings from Elaine Doyle's heart. Like when I went to Scotland, I was brought on to about 8 different lifetimes. And I could viscerally feel that my visionary came on very strong. Like I could see things, I could see into other lifetimes. I could feel it. And that was probably just on day one in Scotland, you know, and then never mind having spent a month there and navigated many different lands, and realised that like I would never do a pilgrimage like that again. I would go to Scotland for a month, but I wouldn't manoeuvre the land in the same way. And I'd have better boundaries with myself. I did write a post. It's on my website now, actually, under blog, around what to do and what not to do before and after a pilgrimage. And this can be the same with like going to a gathering, you know, every week, or going to like, yeah, kirtan and then a yoga and all these different things within a week, right? You're not actually integrating anything. But I'll come back to the pilgrimage. So you're navigating many different lands. So you're going maybe to the sacred site to pick up the wisdom, but there's many different dimensions and karmic things that can be playing out. So for me, it's like, yeah, like, okay, so if I'm going to go somewhere for a week, I need to maybe give myself a week to integrate that then, or to rest from that. You know, and even when people say, oh, I went on holidays and I nearly needed a holiday after it. Yeah, literally, we need to integrate it and let the medicine of it land, even if it's just the rest. So I believe every time you schedule something into your diary, also schedule in the integration time from that. I can't be like, oh yeah, I went to Loud for a week and then I came back and I did something else. I'm still integrating that time. So it's like a full-time job, integrating and resting and letting it land. But it's this is the alchemy. This is when we turn the learning into gold, or the woundings into gold. This is the path of the alchemist. So this is the same process in a way if we've had trauma. I'm just going to see if the Scotland thing is finished now before I get into trauma. Yeah, I just can't stress it enough. I know I love repeating myself, but I'm going to go and pour myself some more tea here. I got some rosemary, fresh rosemary. It's just lovely to have actual proper tea, not from tea bags. Anyways, where was I? Scotland, was it? Yeah. Let me just pause and find where I was at there. Yeah, I feel like the Scottish dimension is closed for now. Let me just see. This is the integration happening right now in this moment too, you know. Yeah, I suppose it comes back to like quality over quantity. And there doesn't have to be all these massive different epiphany experiences. One big one, if we integrate it, is enough within, you know, a cycle or a season or a year. And, you know, 2 years later, the last time I was in Scotland then was 2023, which I can't believe I haven't been there since. Like, it's like, Scotland feels like my beloved. I'm really excited to get there this summer, but I had to. The reason I haven't been there is because I've obviously been still integrating. So the last time I went was in 2023, just after my birthday, and I just went for 4 nights. So I was like, yay! I'm a big grown-up girl now, learning from my mistakes, and that was loads. I went to Rosalind Chapel, which is a place of huge remembrance in terms of like the Rose lineage and Mary Magdalene. And yeah, having boundaries with myself. And I think it was in 2023 then, I stopped going to like festivals and big gatherings because I was still integrating. So I had a very, very busy 2021, 2022, and yeah, half of 2023 and 2020 as well. Like, not busy, but like a lot of spiritual insights. So I had to slow down to integrate. And I remember saying to my friend Aoife, I actually can't do another pilgrimage because all of these pilgrimages, and I'm talking about like, you know, going to Newgrange and Tara in 2021 for the first time since I awoke. Like, they were massive experiences for me. like the amount of remembrance I had going back as an awake Irish woman. They needed time to land and to integrate. And, you know, after going to Newgrange now twice last year, well, in a close amount of time, now the codes of Newgrange are really landing, like the real womb mysteries of these womb temples, and that's years later, you know. And like, I really do want to bring women there, but I can see how like it takes years, I believe, to really integrate the medicine and remembrance of these sacred places. And there's no rush. I was saying to my friend, like, we've a lifetime to do this work, like, you know. So I'm talking about integration in terms of pilgrimages, but this is also like consciousness. So for an example, I've had so much healing happen this winter, which I've shared in a few of my episodes over the winter. And, you know, I think one of the biggest learnings or the healings was this just deeper somatic experiences of the conscious awareness that I am. And then things like healthier relationships with my family and community, cutting codependency, coming into deeper union with myself. So there's lots of different things, right, that I've delved into this winter. But unless I integrate it now, which I still have to do, I still need to integrate more. It's lost, lads. It gets lost. It gets fragmented. And this is why we can actually regress on our path. I was talking to friends about that. It is actually possible to have all these epiphanies and awakenings, and if we don't integrate them, we go back into this unconscious place. I've seen it with family members, I've seen it with friends. Unless we integrate and devote ourselves, we can go backwards on the path. So like, if I go ahead and run away this spring and don't integrate, I'm back to square one. And as I said at the start, I've unraveled from the goodness of winter. And this is why, like, how many of us have read The New Earth or The Power of Now and have completely forgotten the messages and the epiphanies we had reading the book because there maybe was a lack of integration. This is why spiritual book clubs would be really helpful. So yeah, like for me, I'm doing this now is like testing myself because, like, you know, the ancient ones, you know, if anyone has read Anna the Grandmother of Jesus, part of becoming enlightened was reading these old texts. You know, Yeshua would have traveled to India and read all these old texts and gospels, because there is a part of that does lead to spiritual awakenings. And luckily now, because of books, we don't have to travel to all these places. But like for me, books is can really help our consciousness if we embody and integrate the learning. So just a little practice with The New Earth for me was when I was reading it recently, I underlined all the bits that really landed, and I'm writing them out in a journal, all the bits. I'm reading over them, and now I'm going to reread the book again. And it's like it's changing my life. Those teachings are changing my life. So that's integration, lads, right? So maybe it's just getting you and your best friend to read a book together and to like debrief on it together. Me and my brother actually did that. With The New Earth. I let's just say I bought The New Earth book for a few people this Christmas. Integration. There was something I was going to say now on that. Books. Let me just pause and see where I was at. So yes, I remember my thread there. which was family and my time at Christmas. So in A New Earth, he talks about how not to react to unconscious people or unconscious scenarios, how to respond instead of react, how to center yourself and come into your body. And I really practiced that over Christmas. And as a result, it was the first Christmas that I can ever remember where there wasn't an explosion. There was a lot of calmness. And actually the one negative, and I don't want, there's no positive or negative, but the one uncomfortable experience I had with a family member, it was actually me. I got frustrated at them. So I do think the more we heal the unconscious parts of ourselves, the more we actually don't attract unconscious interactions with others. So I think it's Rumi that says, go home for your family for a week and you'll see how spiritual you are. And I'm actually, as a therapist and social worker, that's always played in my mind. It's like, I think I'm spiritual, but am I really? If there's all this explosions happening with my family, and so I've been devoting myself to that, and it's working. It's being healed, but it's, there's a lot of healing that's happened. And for some people that won't be possible due to abusive scenarios, so it's not like this is how it's meant to be, but I'll just share my experience that was a way to embody and integrate the book by actually fucking bring it into practice, lads. Like, can we be compassionate around our family, the people who trigger us the most? Can we be non-reactive? Can we have no attachment? And I think the more we embody peace, the less we attract these negative experiences. It was just massive for me, and I'm sure everybody in my family felt it as well. There was just things, my mum has been my biggest spiritual teacher, and for us to actually sit down and watch a movie together, what did we watch? 7 Years in Tibet, which is a really good movie, a true movie, real, what you call it? A true story about the Dalai Lama. And my mom was like, this is great, this is like a spiritual movie. And I was like, oh. And she's like, yeah, I bought the Dalai Lama book years ago. And I was like, you see, there's this other part of my mother that I wasn't even seeing because of the reactivity and unsafety in our relationship that's now being healed. So healing can happen, lads. Can happen through integration, through embodying what we read. It's not just about reading something. It's about, if you go, Kirtan is on my mind because a client said she was going to Kirtan yesterday, so random that I'm using that word. But if you can feel peace at that, it's about bringing that peace into your relationships and into your daily life. There's no point talking about forgiveness and non-judgment and being a bitch to your husband. So that's another form of integration, is practicing it day to day with people. I'm going to practice not reacting. I'm going to practice being grateful. Yeah. So, books. The other thread, I love remembering these threads, was trauma. Integrating trauma. So as I talk about this, I realise that as a therapist, what I really am is someone who helps people integrate. This is probably why I'm so passionate about it. Because when Michael Angelo said integration is key, I was like, bing, this is why I'm here. I'm here to help people integrate trauma, pilgrimages, spiritual awakenings, everything. It's all about integration. Because as therapists, what we do is we help heal trauma by integrating it, by talking about it, bringing healing to it, and extracting the wisdom. Okay, so you grew up with a parent that was emotionally abusive. What was that like for you? Usually there's a lot of grief and pain. And then it's like, but what did it lead to? Okay, well, maybe it led to you actually having to love yourself. You had to love yourself because you weren't receiving that from your mother or your father. Or you weren't. Yeah, of course they probably do love you, but it wasn't been expressed or felt. Ancestral trauma and all that. And maybe that also made you, I know for me it was like that actually forced me into having a very strong connection with nature. Even as a very young child, I was obsessed with oak trees. and just being in the forest was my safe place. So seeing how like emotional abuse can lead you to feeling grief, opening up your heart, being vulnerable, and then also having your own solid connection with God, the divine, and yourself. So that's integration of trauma. Now that's it summed up in a few minutes, when there's a lot more to it sometimes, especially given the extent of abuse. There can be a lot of sessions and a lot of years just spent on crying, grieving. For me, yeah, like it took me a while to realise that everything in my life, I've manifested for my spiritual growth and evolvement, which can be a hard pill to swallow when we're talking about, for different people, sexual abuse, neglect, abandonment, separation, all the core wounds basically. And at the same time, I do believe that these things can really lead to a very, very strong connection with the divine. And I talked about that in the podcast episode, A Newer Consciousness. How a lot of us healers have had difficulties because it's led us back to spirit and all that. But for the new generation, hopefully that won't be the case, because the consciousness on planet Earth is shifting to a higher vibrational one. So yes, integrating trauma. And I mean, yeah, integrating trauma and integrating a pilgrimage can feel very different. Even though my Scottish one had a lot of pain there, oh my God, so much grief came up for me in Scotland. Scotland for me, and I would love in time to bring people there, because there's many codes there, but it's another, I believe the Celtic Isles is the heart centre of the world. And maybe we don't even need to call it the heart centre, but it's a deep portal. There's deep portals on these lands. Some of the most ancient sacred sites are here. I mean, there's like I don't know what the stats are, but like between, the Orkney Islands and the UK and Ireland, there must be like the largest density of sacred sites in the world, surely. Maybe that's been overestimating it, but there's a lot. And sacred sites are like portals, and Scotland definitely for me has this like heart chamber. Just cracks the heart open. Definitely cracked my heart open, but other women, especially that I've spoken to, have experienced the same. So like integrating Scotland wasn't easy, just like integrating trauma isn't easy. Like this whole can of worm gets opened, this whole and that's not easy to be with that. That's why we numb and distract and disassociate, because we don't want to go into those dark places of ourselves. In my experience, it's the only way. The worms actually aren't that scary, And I'm just reminded, it's like, I remember like there was a week in particular where I was really feeling the intensity of what happened in Scotland. I had to see 2 shamans in 1 week to help me integrate, or to help me to figure out what the fuck was going on. The amount of resources and money that I've pumped into integration practices, and I'm so absolutely glad that I did. Therapy, shamanic sessions, energy healing, massages, saunas. Saunas is a very good way to integrate as well. It really brings the fragmented parts down. It helps us come back, settle ourselves. Yeah, so what else did I want to say on that? I feel like I'm weaving in, and I suppose it is all linked, integration and regulating the nervous system. And how, yeah, that's probably one of the reasons I came to Kerry as well. Now, I have had a good bit of time in community. Since I moved back to Kerry, I've travelled back a lot for different things. But the reality is I've had a lot of spaciousness here, because Sorry, I nearly knocked over my microphone there. Yeah, I haven't, when I'm down here, there isn't unnecessarily, there isn't, what can I say, there isn't, I haven't been pulled into things that I would be pulled into if I was very close to my family and community. You know, like if there's a, you know, there's just certain things I can't always travel back for. And as a Taurus, you know, family means a lot to me, and I would have went to every family event and gathering, and that just was burning me out. And as much as I love these things, a lot of the time, you know, there is, are all these things we're going to, are they really raising our consciousness or not? So I really needed to have Kerry as a boundary to pull myself back from these things. And I realised when I went back to Kilkenny then at Christmas, I didn't actually visit any of my extended family. People came to us, and yeah, me and my mum were like, you know what, it's the depths of winter and we just give ourselves permission not to go here, there and everywhere. So I think I've actually cut cords with that now, you know, and allowing ourselves to do what we need to do, that what is best for us. And Kerry has really helped me with that. Yes, community is essential and we depend on others, but there's also, for me, spaciousness that we have to give ourselves permission to have spaciousness to integrate, or else, yeah, growth isn't really happening, or we're not integrating, we're fragmented and dysregulated. So Kerry has really, 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 really helped me with regulating my nervous system and integrating everything that's happened. You know, I mean, spiritual awakenings have to be integrated. I feel like I'm absolutely repeating myself now, but it's just, it's so essential. I know there was something coming in there that I was going to say. Let me just pause and see. Yeah, I'm not sure what it was, but if it's important, it'll come to me. But yeah, I feel like we have an addiction to new experiences and to more. Definitely, we have an addiction to more. I've said that before. One of Eckhart Tolle's things is we want more than we want. So we'll all, no matter what we have, we'll want more of it, and that includes spiritual experiences. And yeah, I notice even like I went to Derrynane yesterday, and it's one of the most beautiful places in the whole world. If anyone knows Cahir, Daniel and Kerry, it's beautiful, but it's a good bit from me. It's 45 minutes, and it was just like wanting to experience it in the sun and wanting more experiences there. And I actually just wasn't present, and I really just needed to be at home resting. So it's like we have to just be like, I've had enough, just go home and rest and integrate. Like we have to be strict with ourselves. You know, discipline and disciple, it's very similar word, and the disciples were, yeah, you're like enlightened and spiritually evolved because they were disciplined. So I'm just noticing how strict I have to be with myself. And yeah, saying, like, the most important thing right now for me is knowing when to say no. And it's a lot. And that's okay, because there's an awful lot to fucking integrate when we're awakening during this momentous time on planet Earth. Like, even if you didn't leave the house, the full moons and the new moons and the Schumann resonance and everything happening in the world. So how do you know if you haven't integrated something? So this is a good one. You'll be dreaming about it. You'll be dreaming about it. So I was dreaming about a friend of mine a lot, and I reached out to her and I shared my truth, and then the dream stopped and I'd integrated. And in the message, I shared my truth over the past year or so, because that was, you know, all the difficulties that happened within that year. And then I'd integrated it by sending the message. Right? So dreams. Another way of knowing is that if we're feeling a bit ungrounded or fragmented, if we're just feeling like overwhelmed, or that we've reached our limit, burnt out, exhausted, we know that's our body's way of telling us, stop, slow down, I need to rest and integrate. So what did I say there? Yeah, we've reached our limit, burnt out, exhausted, wrecked, fragmented, dysregulated. And another thing is our heart is just telling us, our heart is speaking to us, journal about this, integrate this. So this is what I've realised as well. This is big for me now, right? Have you ever felt stuck somewhere and you know your soul wants to move on, but it's not happening? You're feeling stuck. So my realisation around that was that until we integrate something, we can't actually move on because we haven't actually completed it. So even though our soul wants to move on, it actually won't really let us until we've integrated the lessons. So a prime example of that for me is I moved to Cahersiveen. Cahersiveen is named after Sive. Sive is Oisín's mother. Oisín is my spirit baby, so I'm here to remother myself in preparation to birth Oisín. And I wrote a post about it a few weeks ago called Dear Mother. And since I wrote that, I feel like it's time to leave Cahersiveen, or not leave, but I can definitely in the next few months, I can feel like I have full permission to leave now because I've integrated it. Now, there actually is more integration required about other medicine keepers that I've been working with in the area. So I know that I can sense that when I've all that integrated, then it might be time to go, whether it's for good or for a few months. I don't know yet, but it made me realise that this is probably why I hadn't. My human self wanted to leave Kilkenny for a long time when I was living there, but I hadn't integrated it. Same in Wexford. Me and my ex broke up and we lived together after we broke up to integrate our relationship, and it was so healing. And by the time I left, I was fully ready to go and he was fully ready to let me go. So we can't sometimes fully move on from something, whether it's a place or a relationship, until we've integrated. So you might have broke up with the person, but if you haven't integrated what wounds that brought up for you, what wisdom and gifts did you get, there's a part of you that's still fragmented or stuck there. And then, another actually powerful experience was I had a dream about an ex from 2012. 2013. And I reached out to him and I shared my truth because it was quite a traumatic ending. And I feel like, oh, wow, now I've integrated it. 12 years later. Maybe that's why I haven't been in a long-term relationship since. Because he was my last actual long-term relationship, that was a couple of years. And I didn't know it wasn't fully integrated until I had the dream. So dreams, I have worked with Mugwort a lot before I go to bed. Mugwort helping us with our dream space and our unconscious. So the dreams can really tell us what's needing to be integrated in our lives. So for me, I haven't. I went to Wales twice last year briefly, and then before that I'd been to Scotland for as I said, 4 days, and I haven't left Ireland much besides that because I'm still integrating the pilgrimage to Scotland. I'm still integrating my spiritual awakening. So it's only now that I feel ready to go to the UK this summer for a period of time. So listening to that, if you don't feel the need to go out of your county or out of your country, it's because you're still integrating experiences you've recently had. And going abroad or going to other pilgrimages or going to other sides of the country might be too much for your nervous system because you haven't. So listen to that call. If you always go somewhere but you don't feel the call, listen to that. It's your body saying enough is enough. Hence why winter and snowing periods is the perfect opportunity to integrate and slow down and regulate. Okay, where am I at? I'm just going to reflect for a few minutes. Okay, I feel like I'll start to just reflect and sum things up, because I don't know how long I've been chatting, but I'd say it's been a while anyways. So funny, I started off this episode saying, we don't need to put words to it, but here we are. And just a few things that I'm reminded of is like, I remember my brother years ago being like, Jesus, you just can't sit still, Elaine, and it was this like whacking the nervous system and going here, there and everywhere and traveling the world and more and not integrating any of it. That's why 2020 was such a blessing to actually finally start that process. So I've come from the exact opposite. So that's sometimes how we learn, and even in the spiritual world, there's so many offerings and there's so many pilgrimages and gatherings. It's about, for me now, being extremely discerning what I say yes to, because I also have to allow time to integrate that. And a lot of these, also it can whack our nervous system if thing we're saying yes to isn't in full alignment and hasn't been birthed from a conscious place. And I think it's a new earth. One of something that I was reading or listening to Eckhart Tolle about, and he says about how someone was showing him like a spiritual conference that was on, and had all these workshops, and it was like, maybe it was over a few weeks or a week or something, and they were like, and what thing do you think would be the best to go to or something? And he was like, they all look great, but I'd recommend being conscious of your breath. It's like there's all these spiritual things, but actually it's the most basic things that can lead us to peace and enlightenment, which has been my experience, lads. Like, just running from my own magic for so long. And, when I was up in Loud, and my friend was just like, this has been so amazing to rest, like properly rest. And I was like, yeah, because that's where God is. Like, now we can rest and move, but like in my experience, we don't have to seek outside of ourselves at all, especially when it's windy and wet and cold outside. God is within us. And that's what Eckhart was saying, just being conscious of the breath. And I think the winter in Kerry has just brought me to this new place of stillness, where in the depths of darkness after Samhain, where I wanted to run back to my family, I really met the death inside of me that I was running away from, and tended to that dark part of myself, which now is allowing a lot more stillness, which leads to more integration, which leads to more peace and time with God. And I was around a friend of mine at Christmas who called over, and we went for a walk in the snow, and he just stopped me and he was like, and I've known this person since 2020. And he was like, Elaine, your energy has completely shifted. Like, he's like, there's just this strength and stillness and groundedness. Because he's seen me through my awakening really now, and he knows how ungrounded I was. And I just started crying because, actually the inner work is very measurable. It's not measurable in a matrix sense, because I didn't do anything this winter, like physically. But it's palpable in our energy field, and it's so beautiful when our loved ones notice that, the integration and the regulation of the nervous system completely changes our energy field, and you know, the people who are on our wavelength notice it. So I just wanted to share that we do sometimes on this path, especially regulating my nervous system, I'm like, am I fucking getting anywhere with this? Like, am I actually getting anywhere? And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's like I still can go back into these very ungrounded, dysregulated states. But there's it's like a baby, right? So you're breastfeeding and you don't notice any change within your baby every day. You can't see him growing or her growing. But in a year, he's gone from like a toddler, no, a newborn to a baby and then a toddler. And it's the same with our devotional, healing, spiritual growth. I promise you, when you devote yourself to healing, it might be slow, just like a baby, it's slow. We are like newborns. You will reap the rewards. You will reap the fruits of your hard work in time. This is patience and trust. And Mother Earth teaches us that. You know, the elderberry blooms twice a year. The flowers and then the berries. All our hard work all year round for 2 blossoms. It comes eventually. So this is quality over quantity, and trust that you are having a metamorphosis. You are having a metamorphosis. You are changing. You are healing your lineage. It's just slow and some things are quick, but in my experience, it's been slow because we are shifting imprints in our lineage and our body that have been present for millennia, thousands of years since the fall, I believe. You know, it's been a long time since our ancestors have been in a really, really good place connected to God. It's been a good while, let's just say that. So be patient and soft and compassionate with your healing process. Allowing this spring time to allow for integration from the winter months, for slowness and rest and nourishment and debriefing and chats with friends and community to assimilate what is changing within your consciousness and your body and your hearts and your wombs and your haras. Share with your community. And in the words of Michael Angelo again, integration on a regulated nervous system leads us to the gates of heaven, to God, to peace and love. So Sin é a cóide. I could probably be here for another hour, but let's go off and integrate that much. Yeah, it's been really beautiful to sit down this evening and share with you all. Again, I really support all of your messages and just being here with me on this heart-led path during these momentous times. Yeah, so what else? I'm not always great at advertising my work, but I absolutely love what I do, and I know that it is my soul mission, and that it really has the ability to shift and change our inner landscape. So I am taking on 2 new one-to-one clients for the spring period. And a lot of my work really is about integration, whether that's trauma, pilgrimages, spiritual awakenings, which I might have already said. It's one-to-one work in a safe therapeutic space online to be the alchemist, to change our experiences from just experiences into gold and wisdom. So if you're interested in working one-to-one, please reach out through my Instagram or my email or my website. And I will leave the links in the description box if you would like to donate to support the Cray McCree podcast. I'd really appreciate that, because it just makes it more sustainable when there's donation towards the costs of the podcast platform and microphones and all those different things. I'd really appreciate any donations. So there we go, Accordia. Thank you for your presence here. And again, your support. And sending you so much gra agus bannocht, love and blessings from Kerry. And may you have a blessed spring full of excitement of the return of the light, and perhaps some integration and rest. So slán go fóill, bye for now, and I'll see you on the next episode. Slán go fóill.